Share a screen with the agenda, sir.
Please, sir.
Okay. All right, folks, here we go. Let me know if this is okay to, if you all can see this well enough.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Anything which is in yellow is not ripe yet
Okay.
because we don't have a delegation letter, even though we've asked for them several times. So St. Mary's and a couple of the Prince George's bills we don't have yet. House 644, Delegate Arentz, I think the chair had held that last time.
Yes, the chair held that last time.
Yeah.
Are you looking for me to say something on 644?
Or do you think that?
When we get to it.
Oh, okay.
All right. Well, 795 then, Wycomico County.
I think that's the
Oh,
first bill.
644.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is anything on House Bill 644, Aaron, is there anything you're hearing here that you might want to share with us?
I've just gotten a couple calls. I've had another delegate ask me a question about it, and it's a different bill for Queen Anne's County, and his concern was that where am I going with the bill that Queen Anne's County currently doesn't have any TGI Fridays or stores like that, and the comments came back, well, you know what? That's because you don't have any big boxes, and it started going on. It's a county bill. My commissioners have asked for it. I'm doing this on behalf of the commission.
Still negotiate on or work on? We can hold it still.
Well, okay, that would probably be an easier thing for me to make sure I smooth this out because it is a little bit difficult and I'm running into some opposition in the county. Although they did their work for the most part, but it's still something I just got to ease into.
Okay, we'll hold that. Go to next bill, please, Bob.
Next is 795.
House Bill 795 did not come up at the last meeting because we did not have a delegation letter. This is the bill that, as introduced, repeals the food and beverage ratio requirement for golf course alcoholic beverages licenses in Wycomico County. We subsequently received a letter from the delegation as well as an amendment that allows for Class A license holders to sell alcoholic beverages on Sundays in the county. So we have an amendment, a letter that speaks to the amendment, and there was no opposition at the hearing.
Okay.
So they're going from, Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yeah, Delegate Walker.
So the bill that came in was dealing with just golf courses and food, and they added Sunday sales for their other liquor stores onto the bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any objections? Okay.
On the amendments?
Move favor on the amendment.
There are no amendments.
There is an amendment.
Yes, there are.
Oh, okay.
Move the amendment.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded on the amendments. Any further discussion? If there's none, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Ayes have it.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
All in favor of the bill as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ayes have it. Next bill, please.
House 883, Tiffany, this was held last time.
Yes, this bill was held last time. This is the one that requires Allegheny County to publicly auction newly issued and transferred alcoholic beverages licenses. This was held last time.
Any amendments?
We do not have any amendments. There was a letter from the delegation in support, but we do not have any amendments.
Okay, motion?
Move the bill.
Second.
Was there any, I know there was some concern, there was opposition at the hearing. There may be some people here who can, I know they were talking about negotiating some amendments.
Okay.
Is that the Buckle bill?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
He had mentioned something to me about it, that they were still working on it. If we could hold that, that would probably be until he gets
Be
back to me
better.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Steve Wise had his hand up, but. All right.
Well, let's hear what Steve have to say anyway, quickly.
I think he's
Dave?
muted.
Can't hear you.
We can't hear him.
Can't hear him.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Want to circle back around to it?
Hold is fine.
Okay.
All right. Next bill.
House 974 from Prince George's County. We now have a letter and we have amendments. The bill, as it started out, expands Sunday off-sale permits in the county, and then also has some provisions on underage drinking enforcement and on debarring those who have been convicted of a felony from renewing or obtaining a license for 10 years if the felony relates to the operation under the alcoholic beverages license. The amendments go back to the Sunday sales permits and has some additional strengthening regarding improvements that have to be made to the property and withdrawing that privilege if the improvements are not made in a timely manner, and authorizing the local board to adopt regulations to do that.
Is this Delegate Washington's bill?
No, this is actually wait. Yes, this is Delegate Washington's bill.
Can you elaborate on the enforcement for underage drinking? What did they add to that?
Well, actually, the bill increases the penalties for underage service in Prince George's only. You're muted, Delegate Arentz.
Underage serving, not underage drinking.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we have a motion on that, on the amendments.
Move the amendments.
A second?
Second.
Probably moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Bill is amended.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Bill's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Next bill.
House 979 also from Prince George's County is a BLX license for a particular facility at College Park. The local sponsor wanted to make sure that practically the entire terms of the lease were included in the bill. We have a delegation letter. There are no amendments.
Do I hear a motion?
Move the bill.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. There any discussion on the bill? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, ayes have it. Next bill.
Okay. Next bill is House 1016 from Delegate Mark Fisher. Calvert County bill. We now have a letter. We do not have any amendments. This is one of those series of bills that requires a refund for fees paid for 2020 and 2020 for 2021 license year.
Move favorable.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it.
Okay, we do not have any letters from Frederick County yet, so their 5 bills are waiting in limbo.
Okay.
That brings us to the statewide bills. We have amendments for Delegate Watson's bill, House Bill 12. She has 2 amendments, the first one of which would allow the locality to put limits on the quantity of alcohol for off-premises sale or delivery. And the other thing that it would do is to extend the bill put a sunset on for I think it's July 1 of 2024 or June 30, 2024. She has a second amendment that would require the deliverer to be at least 21 and have tips training. Delegate Arentz has an amendment that is similar to her first one, in that it would allow the locality, meaning the local licensing board, to set limits for sale for off-premises delivery, but instead sunsets it in June 30 of 2022, not 2024. Those are the amendments that I have in the file.
Okay.
I can share the text of those if you want, but I think they're pretty straightforward.
Okay, now the two amendments doing the same thing except for the
Sunset date.
The sunset date, yeah.
sunset?
Yep,
Okay, so the difference in the two bills is the sunset.
correct.
Okay, any discussion on the amendments?
Well,
I've
are
got
we coming back
Let's
as a
take-
legislature? Oh, sorry.
Go right ahead.
No, it's
Okay.
your chair.
I'm asking a question if I can.
Walker?
After you,
Yeah.
Jay, if that's
So-
okay.
Sure. So on these, I know it came in at 22 and then we're talking 24. I know some of us have kind of talked about making bills like this go to 2023. That stood, I think that maybe Delegate Howard's going to ask. That way, that would give us a chance to come back and kind of not go too far out.
That makes sense. Anyone else?
Well,
Are you-
that's exactly right.
Walker, or you?
Well, I was going to hear Seth out before I offered the amendment. Seems like he may be thinking the same thing I'm thinking.
Pretty much. I mean, you know, I'm sure we plan on coming back next year. I don't know why we need to extend it out to 2024. That'll give us a good fiscal year and a legislative year to look at this as far as trajectory is concerned, and so that we move appropriately if we move forward. And so, just my thoughts. So I think you know, I like 2022, but I think so. I like 2022, but I guess splitting hairs.
So we'll call it a deal. So, Mr. Chair, can I make an offer amendment to Bob if we can? I'd like to change to 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I can, it's essentially, the two amendments are the same except for the date. So it would be making a subcommittee amendment to do that. There's also the other amendment concerning tips training and making sure the deliverer is 21.
Well, let's vote on each of the amendments.
Okay.
Let's do let's take the one with the training first.
Okay.
So could you just let them know what that's doing so they know they're voting on, Bob?
Yes, the amendment from Delegate Watson for the delivery specifies that the one who's doing the delivery has to be at least 21 rather than say 18, and also requires them to have alcohol awareness training. And that's for both the those that are on sale, off sale, and also for those that are only off sale.
I said,
Mayor,
move favorable.
I
Move
believe,
favorable.
I was going to say, I believe from Delegate Watson noted that was actually put forth by the Restaurant Association.
Okay.
Move favorable.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed say no. Okay, what do we have next, Bob?
Well, you have either Delegate Watson, both Delegate Watson's amendment and Delegate Arentz's amendment allow the locality to set limits on the quantities to be sold for delivery. So the only difference is either 2022 or 2024, or if you wish to amend one of the amendments, pick one, making it June 30, 2023.
Mr. Chair, may I have the opportunity to explain the rationale behind the 3 years?
Yeah, sure.
Just briefly, I appreciate the committee taking a look at this. When we added the requirement for local jurisdictions to set limits on the amount sold. We put something into their jurisdiction that is going to take some time for them to sort of figure out and set their own regulations, go through their own process. Some of it may have to be a public process. And so my concern is that it may take 4 to 8 months for the local boards to go through that process. And therefore they would not be able to give approval to restaurants for as long as 8 months to 12 months, which means that first year that many restaurants might not be able to take advantage of that. And so that's why I think we should go longer rather than shorter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
You're welcome. But yeah.
can I go on
I
my
see a
end? of
hand
it?
yet.
Yes.
Aaron's, Delegate
Okay,
Aaron's.
Delegate Watson, I agree with you on most 99% of what you said. It's just that one of the problems, and the reason I went with the shorter date, is that if you watch this pandemic and how it's affected people and the way it's affected different areas, this is a one size fits all. And I look at a restaurant and we don't know the ramifications of my restaurants versus restaurants in Anne Arundel County. They might have been hit harder. Ours are certainly hit. I'm not saying no one was hit. I'm just saying that I think we need to be careful about how this could be disproportionate. And I think if we keep it at 2022 or even extend it to the end of 2022, so the 2023 legislative session comes into play, we can take a look at it again and we can make some decisions based on that. And, I like the local control thing. I think we're on the same page with, but I do know that one of our biggest complaints throughout this thing was that all the so-called bills and all the actions and executive actions have been a one size fits all. And I think even in Anne Arundel County, you were disproportionately hit at some points where my county's still been hit. But I think if we are careful enough with this, we can always amend it at that point, as opposed to taking it up for everybody. And I just worry about the offsetting. I mean, everybody's been hurt for the last year and a half, and I think we understand that, but I don't know what part of everybody's business this really will affect.
And one of the reasons I like what Delegate Walker offered, and I've heard a couple of other of you mention the same, pretty much what he was asking. I think that it makes it fair. I mean, the session will be going on. At least the restaurants will not have to stop doing stop with the selling or selling alcohol. It will not have to stop until and delivery until we decide during session. If you I think Aaron's amendment will stop it before, and then if you go and what we could, and this is just Delegate Branch talking, not really the chairman, but I think we want to help the restaurants, so we're not going to allow anything to happen to them further. So we can come back. I mean, and we can make that decision. They can plan. If the pandemic is still going on and it's really still hurting them, then we can extend it. I mean, and they will not be interrupted. But I think that is the careful route, and I think Delegate Walker's amendment sounded appropriate. But I think going to 2024, if the economy does well in 2022, then you're stuck with a law that takes you to 2024. But if the economy if it's vice versa, then we can always extend it. So it's a no lose situation for the restaurants in this bill, I think. But it's up to the Delegate Walker.
Yeah, just in all my, I mean, right now the restaurants have it. They got the best in the world. They got really no rules on it. They're under this, so they should be. The local counties can be planning now while this is taking place, and then we come back. So I think it's fair. I know we've had some more people want to do it, but I'm gonna stress the amendment. I think it's a fair thing. They've got opportunity to start planning right now while there's no restrictions on it whatsoever, so the local counties can get behind it. So I think it's the best vote for us.
So it's up to the committee on your decision, so we can vote on on,
I think Mr. Wise has his hand up.
No, Seth.
Seth.
Oh, and you
Okay.
too.
Delegate Howard.
Both of them.
But Ben had his hand up too, so I think he was before me.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I too agree. I guess we call it splitting the baby. I too agree. Maybe we go along with Delegate Walker's idea, and then you sort of going down the middle, and 2024 might be too much, but at the same time, 2022 you're not quite sure. So I think 2023 would be a good selection suggestion. Yeah, you're quite welcome. Now, that won't happen too often now.
Put his 2 cents in there real quick.
Yeah.
Delegate Howard.
So I like the fact of 2022, and I'll tell you why. The very body that's deliberating this bill right now will be here in 2022 versus a potentially different composite in 2023.
And that's true. But
And Chair, if I may, and only because of the extenuating circumstances of why we're doing this bill, I think it's important that we maintain the initial body that considered this legislation and moving forward. And it would also allow us flexibility to make any type of changes that we may need moving forward as well. And normally, listen, 2023 is not, in all honesty, but I like having the same faces here in 2022 versus potentially different in 2023, specifically due to the extenuating circumstances which brought about this legislation. I think that's prudent. I think it's rational, and I think it's a good stopgap safety measure.
okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, could I just add one more thing you might not be aware of, just on that comment about the, trying to do it at 1 year?
Okay.
Just real quickly. The current extension has no guardrails at all. And so if we're only going to pass 1 year, I would think that the industry might go back to the governor and say, just keep this going for a year until we get through this pandemic. If we pass this for 2 years and we put the guardrails on, then that'll be, I think, a better bill and a better policy for the state and the industry going forward. And that's all I have to say, I promise. Thank you.
What do you mean guardrails? I mean, I'm not against adopting TIPS training. I'm specifically speaking to the time frame.
Well, we're gonna vote on this up or down. So we'll see which members prefer.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, we have hands up from Steve Wise, Dr. Eck, and Melvin Thompson.
let's hear from them. Steve Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just was going to make the point that as to the liquor boards and whether they choose to enact limits on this, the law will be in effect while they consider that.
Yeah.
This is not going to be delayed by the liquor boards enacting limits. Either the executive order is going to be in place or your bill is going to be in place, and then they can decide whether they need limits or not.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who do we have now? Melvin Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I certainly do agree with Delegate Watson, and thank you for her comments. The only thing I was going to add was that, our preference was, as the bill was originally introduced, to be permanent. And so we are okay with 3 years as a minimum, as a compromise. And I just wanted to remind the committee that the time required for all of this will vary by jurisdiction. And so the longer this remains in effect, the better it will be for restaurants to get the economic benefit intended. And we have 25 local jurisdictions in Maryland, so they're not going to complete that process by the same time. And it was for that reason that we thought 3 years as a minimum would make the most sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Eck?
The hands from Ms. Eck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to remind the committee that there was opposition regarding enforcement of this. Catherine Martin from the University of Maryland School of Law had presented her data on, she called 16 different jurisdictions and asked them, and she did send around the chart and results. So I hope that that was received by you all. But only 3 of the 16 reported they had done any kind of enforcement, and most of them said they just didn't have the capacity to do it. So I just want to make sure that that is noted, that enforcement of this will be very, very difficult for them currently, and going forward, just they don't have any more resources and funds to be able to do this on top of their existing duties. Thank you.
Okay, fine.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Is
do
it
you
your
want? I think they've both spoken, so yeah.
Okay, I see a hand still up somewhere there. Oh,
Right,
it's gone.
okay, here we go.
Bob,
Yeah, so you have, I say pick one of them, whether it's Delegate Watson's bill amendment or Delegate Aarons's amendment. Take it up, and then if somebody wants to amend the amendment per Delegate Walker, go ahead. As I say, they're identical
well, why
except
don't
for
we
that.
go? We can go with either amendment.
Oh, we can do it as a committee amendment. We've got the same language.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Do it that way.
Committee amendment.
Okay.
So which amendment are we voting on now?
Essentially, it's the same thing. We'll consider it as a subcommittee amendment with 2023, June 30, 2023.
Yep. And I move the amendment, the committee amendment for 2023.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, raise your hand. Okay.
Okay, I'll put those together as a combined amendment to forward to the full committee.
Okay.
So we're not voting
That's
on.
well. That's. I was going to say that's
Sorry.
the amendment.
sorry.
The amendment. Okay, combined, and now you need the bill.
Yeah, I need the
Favor on
bills.
the bills amended.
Second.
Probably moving second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any no's? Ayes have it.
Okay. That was this one, 12. We then have, do you want to go straight down the list or do you want to go to 1232?
Straight down the list.
Okay, 994, this is Delegate Chi, a specific bill on retail delivery for Class A license holders. There are no amendments.
Explain to the members what that actually does, please, Bob.
Yeah, this specifically allows Class A license holders to have retail delivery. Let me take a quick look at the text of the bill. Okay. All right, here we go. It simply says that if a Class A holder may also provide retail delivery if they send written notice to the local licensing board of their intent to make deliveries, and it's made from licensed premises by the Class A holder or an employee of the Class A license holder. That's exactly what it says. I mean, the current law says that delivery is prohibited unless the retail license holder obtains a letter of authorization from the local board, and then the delivery is made by the holder or an employee. This adds to that. They can provide retail delivery for a Class A. This is a packaged goods store. If they send the written notice to the board and they, again, it's either the license holder or their employee that does it. So it kind of flips things around, saying if you're Class A, a packaged goods store, they can go ahead and do it so long as they send the notice instead of first obtaining permission.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
So this is pretty much like opens it for them to go across jurisdictional lines, is that
Right.
correct?
It doesn't say anything here about jurisdiction. I think that's an issue that came up during the bill hearing.
I don't think it's ready for
Okay,
prime time.
Delegate Walker and then Delegate Howard.
That was my exact question. I was wondering if it allowed somebody to deliver outside of their jurisdiction. So
It doesn't say specifically.
can we hold this, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, most of the jurisdictions, every jurisdiction has provisions saying what of the statewide provisions apply in their jurisdiction. Almost every jurisdiction has this apply verbatim. There are 3 jurisdictions that have particular notice requirements, and there's one, Worcester County, that specifically prohibits delivery. In fact, they make it a misdemeanor.
Okay.
You want to hold this, or what? Or do you want to? What do you want to do
Yeah,
with it?
let's hear Delegate Howard, and then we can possibly hold it.
Well, the bill's silent on going over jurisdictional lines, so it's, you know, allowed essentially in the bill. And Bob, you said it flipped. Go over that part. You said it flipped. So Class A package store, which is.
Yeah, if you let me. Right now, current law, Section 4507 of the Alcoholic Beverages article, which is what this bill is drafted to, says that other than direct shipment of wine, retail delivery to a purchaser of alcoholic beverages is prohibited unless the retail license holder obtains a letter of authorization from the local licensing board to make deliveries, and the delivery is made from the licensed premises either by the license holder, him or herself, or an employee of the retail license holder. What this says is the bill then flips that around and says, if you're a Class A license holder,
right,
and that would be a packaged goods store, an ABC store, they can provide retail delivery if the license holder sends a written notice to the local licensing board of their intent to make deliveries, and the delivery is made from, and just as before, the delivery is made from the licensed premises by the license holder or that person or that holder's employee. So this is saying that they don't have to obtain prior authorization. It says they can just send a letter to the local board and then make deliveries if they're a packaged goods store. At least that's how I read the bill.
Yeah, that's exactly how I read the bill. And it's
okay.
Silent as far as delivery method. It's silent as far as receipt of a letter. It's silent. There's so many holes in this bill. I don't personally think that holding it for a week is going to fix it. I just, quite frankly, Chair, I don't think it's ready for prime time.
There's a comment here. I know Ashley Bagwell has her hand up.
Okay, Ms. Bagwell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee. I'm Ashley Bagwell on behalf of Beltway Fine Wine and Corridor Wine and Spirits. Understanding, well, I wanted to Delegate Howard, first of all, mention in terms of the way it's delivered, I think it still would require either the licensee or an employee of the licensee to make the delivery. I think one of the
I'm talking about the mail. I'm talking about permission in all 25 jurisdictions in Maryland differ greatly as far as notification and operating in their space. But talking about right now under this bill, these are just the 2 problems that we've seen now in 30 seconds of talking about this bill. Right now under this bill, as a liquor store owner, I could just say, well, I sent them a letter. I sent Baltimore a letter.
So
I'm delivering in Baltimore. I sent them a letter.
So 2 things. I think it would simply require the licensee to notify the jurisdiction in which they're licensed that they intend to deliver. So as was just said, it makes that ability to deliver permanent. We do understand that there was some heartburn associated with the idea that a licensee might be able or may be able to deliver outside of the jurisdiction in which they're licensed. And so, for discussion purposes, rather than making it possible for a licensee to deliver to any county on a statewide basis outside of the county in which they're licensed, we wanted to offer the ability to deliver to contiguous counties. So the counties touching the county in which one is licensed, with the idea being that some licensees are located on a border of a county and have a lot of customers just outside of their county who shop at their store. And so while those customers shop at their store, we wanted for those licensees to be able to deliver to them as well.
But they would be able to deliver to the entire jurisdiction, not just over the border to.
To continue, right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sharing the content of the bill on screen. I hope you all can see it.
Yeah, I'm reading it now on the floor system.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Just a couple of points. This will, if you figure if you have one big provider in a county, this will allow them, for all intents and purposes, to deliver throughout the entire county. How does that affect the other stores that have been in this business and the other smaller guys that is part of our system, our current system? I think that's going to allow me that if I can buy it in enough volume, I can deliver it in enough volume, I can actually, I think it's really undue competition, overbearing competition for some of the smaller stores that have grown and actually employ a lot of people also. I'm not a big fan of the bill at all.
Okay. All right, Ms. Bagwell, kind of wrap up. I mean,
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to offer one comment in response to that. And, in similar to a lot of the bills that y'all are taking up today and have discussed thus far, delivery for Class A licensees has been in effect. And so I don't think with regard to that, what's being suggested is something new moving forward. It's something that's been in effect already.
Well, it would be new moving forward in that it would be permanent with no recourse, as far as I'm concerned, from the local jurisdictions for violations outside of the context. And that's all outside of the context, is that this would now be in statute and permanent. So it is new.
So thank you, Ms. Bagwell.
Steve Wise has his hand up.
Oh, Steve.
I was just going to add that even if it's just the contiguous jurisdiction, that jurisdiction has no authority over the deliverer because they're not licensed there.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, is there a motion?
Move unfavorable.
Second.
Properly moving second for unfavorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Say aye.
No, just say nay if you're opposed.
All those opposed to that say you're opposed. How's that? Okay, look like.
Oh, I'm sorry. I tried to mute. Are we not taking up the special order to hold it for a week or
special order? No, we just
killed
take so all those so the ayes had it on this.
Okay.
We're going to the next. We're going to go to the next bill.
996.
Right.
This is the Class A licenses for grocery stores bill from Delegate Gee. There is an amendment. Let me find that amendment if you want to see it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, Bob, I see why the Chairman Davis always sticks with the eye on the unfavorable and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
It can get confusing. It can get confusing.
Yeah, the one amendment, and it was from Delegate Gee, would say that if the local licensing board doesn't issue a Class A beer or beer and wine license, the board may issue a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license to the applicant. Other than that, it's the bill as it came in, which authorizes the locality, authorizes, as she said, as a pilot project, grocery stores to get a Class A licenses if they're in food deserts. I'm paraphrasing, and they sell healthy food.
Okay.
Is the food desert language still in there?
This isn't your Prince George's bill, the food desert or food swamp. This is the. Tell you what, let me go ahead and share this document here. Here we go. Y'all can see this?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So this is in the current law section that says you're not supposed to be able to issue to a chain store, supermarket, or discount house. This says local licensing board shall issue a Class A beer or beer and wine license to an applicant if the store is independently owned, it's located in a priority funding area. It says the board may issue the license only for use in conjunction with the premises.
Okay.
Okay. Offers a full line of food products. At least half the square footage has to be dedicated to sale of food or beverages that aren't alcohol. At least 6,000 feet for food or beverages, or it's a convenience and for food product delivery company that has is also located in a PFA and doesn't exceed 15,000 square feet. And then it provides an annual fee to be paid to the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. And the prohibition against having more than one license doesn't apply to this provision. That's the meat of the meat of the bill. There are a few other things that are conforming changes in certain other jurisdictions.
How many people were in opposition to this, Bob?
I'll have to open that up in
We
the
had a
floor
lot
system.
of.
There was a lot of discussion on this bill.
I'm in opposition.
Yeah.
And
In terms
DT
of
was
people,
certainly in opposition.
in terms of people who were signed up for it, committee testimony, there was a lot on both sides, honestly. I don't have the, we don't seem to have the sign-up sheet in our floor system, but I seem to recall we had a significant, and the hard copy is in Annapolis, and I'm not.
Okay.
But I seem to recall there were several pages of witnesses who testified verbally, as well as some others who submitted written testimony. It was pretty contentious on both sides. I will say that.
Okay. I see a hand from Delegate Howard and Delegate Ernst.
Well, I just wanted to bring to the subcommittee's attention that this was not only contentious in oral testimony from opponents of the bill, but also to some of the delegates. I mean, I just sat back and just sort of listened, and there was pretty powerful testimony out of even our own committee members that was you know, very powerful, striking to me, and I thought made a lot of sense. And I thought those points were well laid out, and that argument was well executed, and specifically speaking to Delegate Wilson. And so I'd just like to bring the body's attention to that.
As I recall, Delegate, if I can interject, the bill hearing went from 11 till 3:30.
Right.
And at least an hour and a half, possibly 2 hours were spent on this bill.
Yes.
Delegate Ernst, followed by Delegate Walker.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'll give you my personal feel on this. Is this type of bill is devastating to small business. They are the lifeblood. I mean, most of our package stores are family owned, or they're owned by groups of people that we all know, love, and respect. These bills are going to benefit the big business. I think I pointed out in the hearing where the location, the headquarters of some of these major chains are. In my district alone in Queen Anne's County, they have almost at every grocery store. We have 3 major grocery stores in Queen Anne's County, and each one of them have a liquor store within 100 yards of them, because that's the model we put out. This will put them out of business. The comments were made about our job creation in a supermarket. And I can tell you right now, these small businesses, they hire tremendous amount of people in our community. They're locally owned. These other businesses, they'll hire people in our community, but you have one person doing 1,000 things in a grocery store. And my other fear about this is if you're going to leave it open to kids that can walk into a grocery store and open a bottle of beer and drink it in a corner, I'm very much against this. I don't think it's the right model for our system. And that's why I'll be a nay on the bill. It's not what I think our system's about at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Delegate Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot of what Delegate Ernst said, I kind of disagree with. In joining this and seeing the research, I went to the grocery stores in my district, and guess what? Each one of the shopping centers had at least one, in some cases two, liquor stores next to them. And then I followed up and learned from this committee. I never realized how much beer sales are to a liquor store. We think it's a liquor store, but it's a pretty good chunk of their business there. So I think for those reasons, they don't see how I could support this bill because of the damage that would be done. Even though I thought long and hard about this one for a long time and kind of see both sides. But at the end of the day, I think that would absolutely put a hurting on some of these liquor stores for jobs.
So, is there a motion?
Delegate Carey has a comment, has his hand up.
Delegate Carey, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I was just going to piggyback on what Delegates Walker and Ahrens have already said. These small businesses in my district, these are the guys that support the Little League teams, buy the church raffle tickets. These are the ones that are active in the community. So I'm not a fan of this bill either.
Wow. Okay.
Move unfavorable.
I'll move unfavorable.
Second.
Been properly moved in second for an unfavorable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we have
Okay.
one last bill.
We have one last bill. Let me share the screen again with the House Bill 1232 from Delegate Brooks. I have some amendments that have come in on that bill. Good grief. We have them from Delegate Brooks, and we've got them from Delegate Ahrens. Would either one of those delegates want to describe what they thought they were doing in the amendments?
Let's go with Delegate Ahrens. You want to talk about your amendments?
Or I can try to go through them, but yeah, yeah.
I can
Brett,
go through it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. If you want to go ahead. I'm good. I just couldn't get my button. Go ahead.
All right. Let me find the reprint.
Can I talk about it while you're looking?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what you thought you were doing.
What I thought I was doing. I like that part.
My apologies. Yeah.
Well, I think this one came into a little bit. One of the parts of this was about the sunset bill, and when this one sunsets. And I think I was trying to look at these bills proactively, and I can use the same story I gave you on the first one about when they can and can't stop. The other thing I think that was brought up in the hearing was there are some things in here that the governor's executive orders covered, and there's some things the governor's executive order didn't. And I think those are things we need to bring up as a group, and we need to talk about. Are these bills for COVID designed to enhance something, or are we going out there to keep the things that we had? I appreciate that the limits are there for a reason, and I appreciate why you might want to expand it. But this bill does have some serious ramifications. Bob, if you want to elaborate, please do.
Yeah, no, all I'm doing here is trying to change the screen share so I can bring up the, here we go. No, I think and I have to make it big enough that I can read it. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, what we have here, all right, here we go. So this is the bill as amended. And so the bill as it came in and still changes over the various kinds of off-site permits we have and creates a single manufacturer off-site permit that is available to several types of manufacturer. And then during those events, you can have the samples, They have to have somebody who has tips training and available at any number of these events. What you've done with the amendment, bring in some provisions here on, taking out the Class 5 brewery license here, promotional events, and that's being folded into the new permit. Changing references to the comptroller to be the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission along the way, which needs to be done anyway. And then finally, we're saying in a new section here, a new sell and deliver products in accordance with this new permit. And that whole bit will be sunset at the end of 2022. Okay, I see Brad Rifkin is available. I think he was involved with some of the ideas behind this. He might be a good person to speak to the bill and with the amendments. And then Steve Wise has his hand up.
Okay, let's go with Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Subcommittee Chair. Yeah, so the amendments you have in front of you was our attempt to come to, in our belief, a good compromise on how the bill was originally introduced. But the way I think we would want to look at it is it's kind of two parts. There's part of the bill that dealt with an agreed upon bill that passed out of the Senate last year that we worked hard on language with both Steve and Nick, the retailers and wholesalers. And that's the off-premise permitting stuff you see in there. That's the cleanup language from the barrel limits with respect to self-distribution and other things that you guys worked really hard on back in 2018 on the Modernization Act. We just missed a few of the numbers, so we've standardized that. With respect to the executive orders and the interpretation of the executive orders, dealing with delivery and dealing with direct shipment and the repeal of certain on-premise to-go limits, that is what we pulled out. So we bifurcated that out, and that's what we would suggest be sunsetted under our proposed amendment. We also included language that whoever's delivering it, if it's one of our employees, that they have to be certified by alcohol awareness training. And we proposed a 3-year sunset, and the way we at least propose it would be the sunset doesn't toll until the end of the state of emergency. So the day the state of emergency is rescinded, that's when the sunset would begin. That's a date certain, and it gives us the ability to really recoup the losses that we've endured as an industry, and it gives us the ability to continue investing in these sales channels as we move forward. With respect to direct shipment, as you've heard, direct shipment is in law for wineries, so that's not new. We're extending it to breweries and we're extending it to distilleries. And then the other piece is the delivery piece. So that's how I would look at the amendment before you. We pulled out the things that we agreed upon for the most part with Mr. Manis and Mr. Wise last year. And then the other piece that we know is more of a contentious issue, we pulled and bifurcated that out for the sunset.
Isn't delivery for wines different than delivery for beer? And well,
actually,
that, I mean, we put that in play. We could have put everything in play when we did originally.
It's a good question.
The only reason we're looking at, the only reason we're looking at this again, because we negotiated, this all could have come up back when we did the major bill that we did, but we didn't change the permits. We didn't change the shipment. I mean, wines we were able to do that then. So I'm not understanding why now we want to do spirits and so on when that industry is, they haven't had any trouble at all. So why are we now doing all that? I'm just wondering, because that's not I thought we were trying to assist the beer industry at this particular moment.
Well, and Mr. Subcommittee Chair, I'm here on behalf of the Brewers Association of Maryland, the Maryland Wineries Association, and the Maryland Distillers Guild, so all 275 Maryland businesses. And so the idea is, under the executive orders now, my beer manufacturers in the state and my distilleries are able to ship directly to consumers. And we knew that, and we know that, wine has direct shipment of wine dates back to 2011. And frankly, there are 1,100 wineries outside the state of Maryland shipping into Maryland today. But with respect to what we're asking for these things to continue under the executive order, which they are right now, and to continue into some foreseeable time frame so that our breweries and our distilleries can continue to ship to consumers that want their product here in the state. And frankly, with respect to breweries, shipping beer is incredibly, it's way more expensive. Think about it. It's a cheaper product and it's heavier. So the idea that this is somehow going to completely change the game, people aren't going to be buying tons of beer and shipping it into the state. And frankly, I would probably contest that the big macro breweries that you may hear from, the big macro breweries and the wholesalers they use can negotiate those terms to make sure that shipping doesn't happen. So anyways, that being said, this is really important that these provisions, which are in the executive orders today, extend out to some foreseeable time frame, no different than the employee delivery that we have.
And explain the change for so many permits. I noticed there's so many permits that you're asking to be.
Yeah, that was agreed upon. Yeah, it's a good question, Mr. Subcommittee Chair. That the agreed upon language from last year deals with going to the same amount. For instance, right now under current law, Maryland breweries, wineries, and distilleries don't get to go to the same number of farmers markets. So what we did was we consolidated all the language because over time, as you I'm sure are aware, we kind of put things in each different license and we don't really standardize it. We took a look at it holistically and said, let's just have all the manufacturers go to the same number of farmers markets per year. I think it's 32. And we had that conversation with both Mr. Wise and Mr. Manis, and we appreciate how that conversation took place last year, and it turned itself into a bill that ended up passing the Senate, but unfortunately, we just didn't get to it in the House. But that's really the impetus behind it, no different than the other special event permitting language that you see in there. It's rolling some stuff into one permit so that each license can refer to the same permit.
If I can make a quick apology to Delegate Arentz and Delegate Brooks, the two reprints, the one from Delegate Arentz's bill has a 2022 sunset. The one from Delegate Brooks is the one that has it 3 years after the extension, after the end of the executive order. So it's sort of one apple and one orange. So my apologies if I have any confusion.
Hey, can I come in and split the middle again?
Bob, have the members had an opportunity to read?
I just got these amendments this morning. If you want me to send these amendments or the reprints around to the subcommittee, I can certainly do that.
Okay.
You all have bill hearings in 20 minutes.
Okay. Delegate Valderrama?
Yeah, the amendment that Delegate Arentz is providing, could this be, and I'm just comparing the bills that we've already voted on, couldn't this be the same conversation and Brad chirping, I'm so tired.
Chime.
What I'm trying to say is the amendment, couldn't it be put in the same perspective as the prior bill where we're going to be here, to deal with it at that pace? Like, does it have to be the 3 years? I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but I'm trying to. Am I making sense?
Can we split the middle again like we did on the other bill?
Basically, is there a problem with that to the bill sponsor and to Brad? And
if the will of the committee is to do something like that, we understand. We certainly want it to last as long as possible because I can't imagine how long it's going to take to dig out of it. But I think if you're doing something with a sunset, I would just, Bob, I know you've got the amendment in front of you, but I would look at how we've bifurcated it out because some of the provisions we're talking about are meant to be permanent, and I don't think that the other side would disagree. And some of the provisions obviously are the point of contention that would be sunset.
If I may suggest, I can take both reprints, circulate them, and then I will also have an opportunity not for only the subcommittee members, but perhaps also for the staff who would be implementing all of this, either whether the controller's office or the alcohol and tax commissions, people be able to look at this and figure out how to work it.
Yeah, and then each, the industry can both look at each other's amendments and hopefully you can agree on something else, but if not, then it's gonna leave it up to us to do, then we'll certainly do it.
Okay.
Let me recognize Mr. Manis. I saw his hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and representing the Maryland beer wholesalers, and we're Maryland businesses also. And per Brad's comments, this bill should be broken up into two parts, right? In 2019, you passed the Maryland Modernization Act for breweries. Matter of fact, when you passed that bill, you said to both of us, we don't want to see you for 5 years.
Right.
But what happened was there was some cleanup that needed to be done. And that bill was introduced last year. We all agreed to it, and then the pandemic hit. And so this year's bill includes that language, but also includes the privileges that were allowed under the executive order, which includes, and I'm talking strictly about breweries now, includes deliveries by the breweries, by their employees, also allows for direct shipment by common carriers, and also allows the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax Commission to reduce fees. So it is our feeling that those three things, because they wouldn't even be here asking for those things if it wasn't for the pandemic, they should sunset in 2022. And why we feel we are different in that what you do for out-of-state manufacturers, what you do for in-state manufacturers, you have to do for out-of-state manufacturers. And Brad's correct. It's more expensive to ship beer, but I will tell you that there's lawsuits around the country, and we will get in one the longer you keep this in effect. The reason we haven't seen any lawsuits in our estimation is because it's temporary. So we agree that there should be some, gratitude, for lack of a better term, to the brewers, but we feel it should be in 2022. Again, you're back here in 2022. You can extend it if you like, and if we're under the current situation that we are, which from all indications, we're moving in the right direction, but if we are currently, we'll be hand in hand with Brad and say extend it. The one other thing this bill does is it removes the cap that someone can buy when they go to a brewery. This wasn't in the executive order and wasn't discussed when we talked about the Maryland Brewery Modernization Act. So we think that should stay at the current limits, current caps, which is one case for when you walk to a brewery or go to a brewery, you can buy and take off premise. Because the whole idea was for you to increase the self-distribution that breweries can do, again, under the Modern Brewerization Act. So they could deliver more to packaged goods stores where they could support their local businesses there. So that's where we are, Mr. Chairman. The things that are allowed by executive order, we feel they should extend to 2022 and then not change anything else that's in current statute as it relates to the caps.
And Mr. Subcommittee Chair, if I may just make one clarification on that.
Wait, hold tight, Brad. Are you done, Mr. Manis?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, Brad.
Just one clarification with respect to the executive order. I hear what Mr. Manis is saying. While it may not be explicitly spelled out with respect to the removal of the off-premise caps when someone comes to our brewery or distillery to take away, that has been the interpretation of the enforcement division that regulates my client. And they have been explicitly told, even publicly, that that cap does not apply. So we've been operating under that paradigm for the better part of a year. And it's incredibly important that my client continue to be able to sell as much as they can if someone comes to their facility to take away. No different than, I don't think anyone's arguing there should be a cap on the delivery of when an employee goes out. To suggest that we should have a cap at the premises right now when someone takes away, but no cap on delivery just doesn't seem to make sense. So that's why we would specifically suggest that it needs to, that particular cap needs to be pulled as a part of the sunset.
And Mr.
Okay,
Chair, if I
I'm
can,
gonna let
if
you
I
go
can make,
one more
if I can
time,
make-
Nick, and then
okay,
we're
if I
gonna
can make
move.
one
Okay,
comment to that.
go
So
ahead.
that means that an individual is still coming to the brewery. The whole reason for the off-premise delivery and off sale is because people aren't coming to the brewery, right? Direct delivery to consumer. Now we're hearing that they're still coming to the brewery to buy their beer for off-premise, which is a direct impact on the local retailers. That's all I have to say. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Good. Okay, so any further comment from any members? I think, in fairness, since these amendments have just come to us, some of them, and Bob's gonna do some reprints, and then we'll get a better look at it. So we'll just hold this one, Bob.
That's fine. Mr. Chairman, I'll share these reprints with the members, and if you don't mind, I'll share them with Mr. Kelly.
Yep, sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Yep, okay, guys.
Thank you.
You have a hearing in 15 minutes.
Yep.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you all.
Any announcements, Mr. Chair? Yep, we're good.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, we're good.
Bob,
Yes, sir.
you still there?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if this is for Bob. I don't know if I let Denise know, but I think I did that I would not be at the hearing today. I'm gonna
Correct.
try to be back for the alcohol subcommittee, the alcohol vote though, okay?
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, is there a schedule is that exact time that we're